mean, I'm a Texas Realtors instructor. I teach a farm and ranch class. I've tried to branch out and, I would say 5 years into the business, you and I'm sure you all have had this, especially whenever you're talking about your technicians and things like that, and trying to scale and grow is training your competition potentially, right? You're training somebody that's not loyal in anything. You get them as good as you are because you're that good of a trainer, and then they leave and go do exactly what you're doing and take your ideas. And that, so in the appraisal world, whenever I first started, the median age of an appraiser, commercial farm and ranch appraiser, was 56 years old.
That's old.
Yeah. And they're aging out and they're not taking on trainees because they have that mentality that I'm going to train you up. I'm going to teach you what I know and get you good at this business. And then you're going to go turn around and start your own thing. And you're going to start taking clients away from me. And that has been that's everybody's problem, right? And, how do you get by that?
I would say the biggest thing about people, there's a lot of great people out there that have the same skill set as Sterling and I. And the big thing that I've had similar conversations is like, why aren't you training, predecessors? Why aren't you training somebody to help you? And they always come back to that scenario. But
why create your own competition?
And right. But the biggest thing of why people don't break out on their own, their biggest competitor is their own mind.
Yep.
And they go, well, there's too much risk. I can't do that. And so they end up just staying and doing that. And that's great. People get happy and they like the comfortability where they're at, because you have to get real uncomfortable to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And you got to be okay with having nothing for a long time.
Absolutely.
We're still in the nothing.
Well, we got a lot of debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might see a lot of material things, but it's mostly a lot of debt. And yeah, you hope to scale it, but without taking someone on and not creating your competition. I think when I was shooting horses in college, that was a big deal. I worked for a few different farriers and apprenticed for them, and they would ask me, and it wasn't until later, because it took a long time to develop my skills to where I could be a hand,
Right.
They definitely weren't worried about me leaving at first.
Right.
But that was common in the horseshoeing industry. This guy worked under me for 3 years. He lives in the same town, and now he's taking half my clients.
Right.
At the end of the day, they weren't ever worried about me doing that, because I told them, don't worry, this is a temporary deal for me. This is just trying to pay bills,
On the adverse side, Sterling's like, I'll go back to chewing horses. Never told me that.
I don't know how you get around that. We talk about our dad a lot on this because he's been a huge influence in our lives. And he talks about when he was starting as a subcontractor, he was a sub for a big company in Big Spring for a long time. And then when he let his first job, and he got his first job as what do they call it? Prime contractor. Yeah. The guy he was a sub for forever, which was kind of a different line of work. Wasn't really, it was kind of similar, but it wasn't quite. And he said, Kesey, I like you, but we're done doing business. I'm done helping you. I'm not going to sub you out on any of my products because you're competition now. And he had a man-to-man competition, face-to-face conversation with him when that happened. And, I always reflect that conversation that my dad told me about that happened 50 years ago, when he was a young man. And I think that's a choice of the entrepreneur, the businessman, right? I think in economics, competition is good for the market, right? Competition creates a healthy market. So I don't know. I don't think there's a good answer.
There's not.
I don't think there's a solution. Other than if you got in contract law, people make other people sign non-competes.
Yeah.
But then it's really hard. Right now, it's hard to get labor. You go try to sign, hey, by the way, if you're not good at this, or I fire you, or whatever, you don't ever get to do this for the next X amount of years.
Yeah,
that's a real advantageous sales pitch for somebody to come work for you.
Well, so I had one thing happen in our appraisal company. So I'm a partner in our appraisal company now. And we had an appraiser that really thought about, hey, I may want to branch off and go do my own thing. And the lack of understanding of how much it costs to run a business is also a conversation that is very difficult to have because they come to you and they're laying their cards on the table. And you got to tell them, okay, listen, to do on my sales side, if you need this type of file storage, iCloud system, blah, 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 it's going to cost you $6,000 a month. Do you think you're going to have the sales to cover that? Oh, by the way, you got rent. You got utilities. You got
insurance,
everything.
fuel,
yes,
car.
Okay, so now we're talking $200,000 a year to run a business. Are you selling enough or appraising enough or whatever industry? Are you doing enough to cover those bills? Because that's your break-even point, and you're making no money.
Well, that's your break even. You're actually minus.
Yeah.
When you're at your break even, in my opinion, you're still negative because you got property taxes due. And you have your other expenses that you haven't even accounted for yet.
Right.
But it always
Something
seems like
breaks.
there's about 10% you're not accounting for.
Yep.
And something breaks, and
We call that a contingency.
so you really, in my opinion, you really have to, like, your goods and services, you got to be either doing X amount of volume or a higher percentage.
So
And if you want to have any profitability, and then once you have paid for assets, then you can leverage your assets to scale.
Sure.
So I asked when people come to me like, I want to be a business owner. I said, okay, well, let's have this. This is going to be a fun conversation, right? I'm going to hit you with some reality. And we had an actual attorney we were having a conversation with the other day, and he explained something very well. And goes, all right, we're going to start from 30,000 feet. And we're going to get closer to the ground. And I really like that analogy because you get from a really broad spectrum and you get really narrow. And the first question is, how much do you want to take home at the end of the day? And they'll be like, I want to make $100,000. I said, do you think off the bat you can sell $1 million or whatever the hell you're trying to do? And they're like, well, $1 million, that's a lot of money. I was like, all right, well, the average business is running between 8 and 12% nettable profit.
Yep.
And you're lucky to get 12 realistically, especially if you're a
I
novice.
feel like the average is less.
And under $10 million companies, it's between 8 and 12%. Over 500 million, it's between 1 and 3.
Yeah, but most business owners, their goal is like 500,000.
Right, but after take home, it's if you can net between 8 and 12, like you're doing solid. And
so 10%
Yeah.
for easy math.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
100,000.
100,000. You need $1 million.
right off the bat. And they're like, oh man, I don't know if I can do that. And I said, okay, well, can you start for 30,000? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, okay, if you cut everything that you enjoy about your life out and you just ate, worked, and endured, could you make it on 30 grand? Well, no, I need like $60,000. Okay. If you make it on $60,000, that means you got to sell $500,000 worth of stuff.
Yep.
And then you got to be real fine tuned to make sure that you're coming home with the bills paid, because you don't get paid as soon as you make a transaction.
No.
People, that is a flawless thing that people are like, oh yeah, as soon as I make a transaction, I get paid. We've had Matthew Neff on here. He got scammed for X amount of thousands of dollars on credit cards. You got people that don't pay their bills, checks in the mail. That's a famous one. Checks in the mail. I didn't know the post office could move that slow. What they do, break all their vehicles.
You've been a wall Texas lately?
Yeah. And so, there's so many excuses. So at the end of the day, yeah, you might have made all these sales, but it might take 120 days before you even get paid.
Yep.
And how many people come work for you that you teach and you invest in that leave and become successful on their own, right? I mean,
I can actually answer that question.
What do you think?
0.
See, there you go. I mean, that might be the
I've trained on the appraisal side of things. I've trained 2.5 people, and
How do you train half of a person? They admit it.
no, he was half a brain. But those 2 still work for our company. One's a partner. One will be a partner probably.
okay, cool.
And so the ones that,
So they didn't leave to become competition.
they didn't leave. And so, and anyone that did leave, that maybe I wasn't directly training them or whatever, they are not in this business. They're done.
They Fused out.
Fused out. Oh, we're going to go find something else to do. Can't make enough money doing this. Well, I mean, whenever you stick with our company, we're investing so much money per month to make your life easier to do your job. And
so from a consumer standpoint, why choose you?
17 years of experience goes a long way. I've got designations and certifications, all the things, we can rattle them all off. I'm most proud of what's called an MAI. It's the highest designation in appraisal that you can get, and it is worldwide through the Appraisal Institute. Whenever I got mine, there were only 12,000 in the history of the program, and in everybody. So I'm literally the only MAI. There's one other MAI broker.
What's
What is
the
that?
acronym?
Yeah, what does that stand for?
Member of an appraisal institute. Some people call it Master of Appraisal. It is.
I like Master of Appraisal.
Yeah, me too. But it's Member of Appraisal Institute, and man, it was a 5-year process.
Wow.
I can't countless hours. It's kind of like a master's or a PhD or whatever, where you have to do a demonstration report, you have to defend it, you have to, it has to go through a bunch of different requirements. So all that said, the appraisal side of things has given me so much information and, call it ammunition for the sales side of things. I have people all over the state that call me for advice.
You vertically integrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, whenever you have this massive commercial broker, whatever, out of wherever that knows your name because of, projects that I've worked on and that our company has worked on and that I've personally sold and done. That's my biggest pitch. Like, I'm here for you, but you need to understand what all I offer.
Right.
And that is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, you can buy people's time, but that knowledge, they had to go invest that in themselves.
Absolutely.
And so when a consumer comes to you, your biggest sales pitch is not, oh, well, I got all these connections, I got all this stuff. It goes, I'm going to take care of you from birth to grave. I want to make sure that when you stumble, I catch you.
Right.
And I, personally, I'm sold. I'm in. Yeah. Let's do it.
I mean, you're talking about wanting to be overly prepared, right? And I walk into every potential interview or conversation with a consumer overly prepared. I have all of their stuff already printed off. I pretty much know what, the history of the property already. I have it mapped. I have everything laminated. I have it ready to go to show the preparation to the consumer. You have people that walk up and just want to talk. And it's like, no. This requires research. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars. You need to know that I'm well prepared and well suited for you to hire me. I love interviewing because you'll get those phone calls. Oh, I'm going to interview multiple brokers. Awesome. That's my favorite thing. And I'm not batting 1,000, but I'm pretty high up there in success rate.
Right.
Whenever I get in front of somebody and, show them everything and ask them off the wall questions, and they're going, I've never been asked how many water troughs are out here. We need to know that.
Yeah.
And if somebody didn't ask you that, they don't know what the heck they're doing.
How many straws are
that was close.
You can release an F-bomb. Yeah.